welcome to another great week of Spicer & Company. I'm Sean Spicer.
And I'm Lindsay Keith. Well, Sean, we knew that the president was going to have a big weekend nominating Amy Coney Barrett. Many people expected to be her. It was, but what we weren't expecting was for this New York Times piece to drop about his tax returns. I mean, the timing of this is kind of crazy.
It is crazy. I mean, we saw him have a really good week. The base was fired up about Amy Coney Barrett getting chosen. It was funny. I actually kind of was wondering to myself, every time that everyone says Trump's going to do something, I'm thinking to myself, maybe there's an outside choice. It's someone else. And so, I don't know.
You thought it was Barbara Lagoa
I
for a
did
long
because
time.
I thought, okay, he doesn't like the expected. So, but then you're right. This piece on Sunday drops about his taxes, and you have to wonder about the timing. And I know we're going to get into this a little bit more, but it is so suspect. The timing of it, the lack of sourcing on it, the lack of actual documents. There's so much missing, Lindsay, that I wonder, you can't help but wonder what more they're willing to throw at this race before it's over.
Yeah, and right before the first presidential debate, which gives ammo to Joe Biden, unfortunately.
Yeah, anyway. All right, well, they won't show any of the details, but we got a lot of questions to ask. All right, joining us now is the former ambassador to Germany and the former acting director of national intelligence, Rick Grenell. Ambassador, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks for having me.
So here's what I don't get. If the New York Times has all this evidence about the president's taxes and what he did pay and what he didn't pay, why wouldn't he just put it out? Put them out there. Let people see them. But for some reason, they keep saying they don't want to put them out there because they'll reveal sources and methods. This sounds like your world, Rick, intelligence gathering, as opposed to journalism.
Well, clearly what they're meaning by this is that somehow they got it through nefarious means, because if you just had a copy of the president's tax returns, then you could put it out and that wouldn't give any evidence away as to how you got it. But they're keeping a close hold on this. Look, Sean, I'm very troubled by what Washington, D.C. insiders do in terms of weaponizing government. Here's another example where they use their sources and their team, so to speak, all these insiders in Washington, D.C. who know each other. They go to the same school. Their kids go to the same schools, or they go to church together, or they're at the same country club. They all know each other. And so what do? They steal someone's personal tax returns and then release them to their neighbor who's a reporter. This system stinks. This is no longer a fight between Republicans and Democrats. This is a fight between Washington, D.C. insiders and those on the outside. They don't want Donald Trump coming in because he's an outsider and he doesn't play their game. So what do? They're going back to the guy who they know they can trust, the 47-year insider who plays by their rules, Joe Biden.
That's right.
I think this is disgusting. It's illegal. And somebody needs to get to the bottom of why the IRS is weaponizing their power to go against their political opponents.
Yeah, I think that point that you made is so interesting, because if I have someone's tax returns and it's just the 1040 and I hand it to you, no one would know where it came from. But they made it very clear that by putting it out there, it would give up a source or a method as to where they got it from. And I think that's so important to understand, because you're right. It's either from the IRS, from the Southern District of New York, or somebody that's a government source that they would be diming out. And that speaks volumes to the exact point that you're making. I want to show you what the president said, though, in terms of how he's responding to this. Take a listen.
Your tax return, sir, does that sound right that you were paying a couple $100s a year in federal income taxes?
It's fake news. It's totally fake news. Made up, fake. We went through the same stories. You could have asked me the same questions 4 years ago. I had to litigate this and talk about it. Totally fake news.
So, Rick, nothing new there. Fake news. That's what he says a lot. But is it better for him to be saying it's fake news, it's ridiculous that this is coming out, or he started to tweet later this afternoon that, he took advantage of the system. He's a smart businessman. He didn't pay taxes because he didn't have to. I mean, there's two different, separate, distinctive messages that he could play there, or I guess a hybrid of the two. What do you think the right message response is for this?
Well, first of all, let me just say one other point on your first point leading into this question, Sean. I think that we really do have to understand that they got this information through some sort of official authority, whether it's a government agency or some other DOJ official. And I need to go back to the point that they're weaponizing government. They're using the power of government to go after people that they don't like or that they feel are their opponents. That is really scary. And if there's one message we need to say, it's make sure that the outsider continues to change this inside game. As far as what the president should be saying, I feel like many regular people really don't care anymore what the media says. The media have lost so much credibility that no matter what they say, the public is rolling their eyes, and the Washington types just don't get it. They think that they can have some sort of new scoop or scandal, and that the American public is going to somehow respond. We've been duped too many times. So when President Trump says it's fake news, I mean, I think most of us say, yeah, we figured. There's way more details. And remember, fake news just means there's larger context to what they're pushing. We have a media that no longer deals in context around a situation. They don't like nuance. And so every single story, there's more to it. It's the tip of the iceberg. And we have really lazy young journalists. I wouldn't even call them journalists. I would say reporters, who just repeat, retweet, recycle all of this other stuff. There's no individual sourcing. And so I think the president's right to just dismiss the whole thing as, look, it's fake. I don't want to get into all of the details, because then they're going to fight about every single nuance. And so whether he calls it fake news or he says, come on, I'm going to take full advantage of the legal loopholes that many Washington insiders have designed.
Right.
If they don't like the loopholes, then change the loopholes.
Exactly.
But don't blame the guy who's taking advantage legally of what you created.
Yeah, I'm not sure anyone in America actually goes, let me pay more taxes. You hire people, accountants, and get software to try to reduce your tax burden. Real quick, Rick, before I leave, you retweeted a gentleman by the name of Kurt Schlichter, who made the point that I think was really interesting, that their big scoop, the media's attempt to go after the president and claim that the taxes were going to prove some sort of Russian connection, have now shown that there's no connection to Russia. So before I let you go, I just wanted to have you weigh in on that, because I think it's a really interesting angle.
Yeah, they dropped it immediately, right? For 3 years, they told us that he was a Russian agent. I mean, you still got Adam Schiff, who keeps constantly saying he's a Russian agent. I can't tell you why. I've seen the secret evidence. I've seen the whole dossier that they pushed out. There's no evidence of that. It's a ridiculous charge. And now, I think, showing the president's tax returns, well, there's no Russian money there, but they'll drop that really fast and move on to something else. This is all a bunch of
also, by the way,
insider stuff.
Yeah, let's not forget, he had a really good weekend, a superb choice in Amy Coney Barrett, and then suddenly this just happens to come along Sunday night. It was almost like wait for the right time to drop this and screw up a great choice and a great weekend for the president. Rick, as always, thank you for your insight. Look forward to having you back soon.
Thanks, Sean.
You bet. All right, guys, we've got a lot of good stuff coming up. We're going to talk about Lindsey Graham's timeline for the Senate to hear Amy Coney Barrett's nominations to report with Executive Director of the American Center for Law and Justice, Jordan Sekulow. Then we've got an up-close and personal look at who Amy Coney Barrett really is with one of her former colleagues and friends. And then we're going to talk to Dick Morris about Trump's messaging regarding the upcoming debates. Plus, Carol Baskin from the Netflix documentary Tiger King faces another elimination round on Dancing with the Stars tonight. She's going to be with us before that happens. You're not going to want to miss it.